And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, and we're doing the quick audio check. Three, two, one, as we wait for this to appear on YouTube so that I make sure that the bubble around my head indeed signifies. Indeed signifies that we have sound. Yes, I hear it. I hear it. I hear it. I hear it. We do have sound. Shout out to Nicer in the house. Shout out to everyone in the house. Today we have an interview. We have a special guest coming up in the house, joining us in about 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. And we're going to be talking about the cost of pursuing your passions, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. The cost of pursuing your passions. And as usual, let me go ahead and play our theme song. And I'll be back and I'll cam up. You know how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. The cost of pursuing your passion with Dr. Thunder. Go ahead and check out the comment that is pinned to the top. Follow his channel. We'll be right back. Thank you very much.
On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our voice, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
Hey there. Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing today? This very, very beautiful Tuesday, I believe it is. This very, very beautiful Tuesday. It is nice to see one and all showing up in the chat. Shout out to Nicer. Shout out to Shot Copy, everyone. R. Bryce. Yes. The Goldie Jones channel in the house. All right. We seem to be ready. We are ready today. Okay? Let me see here. Let me get a chance to line this up. Because things have got to be lined up. Because I'm a stickler like that. Okay? You can't have asymmetry going on. So today we're talking about the cost of pursuing your passions. Now, here's something that we usually hear all the time. We hear people being interviewed. This is a scenario, this is a context. It's usually the context of someone whom is successful in a particular regard. Taco Tuesday, indeed, Taco Tuesday. I saw the tacos over there. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? It's getting wild over there. Someone is getting interviewed. They're successful. I don't know. Let's say it's Elon Musk, for example, right? And then inevitably, after they ask all the regular trivial questions, they add this last trivial question, cliche question about what piece of advice would you give to someone who's out there right now trying to make it? And let me get a one in the chat if you're used to people saying this: pursue your passion, follow your passion. Let me get a one in the chat if this is something that you guys have heard before. It comes in many different kinds of forms. There are certain other bromides out there and certain other statements having to do with, well, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. All that kind of stuff, right? Pursue your passion, they tell you to do. Pursue your passion, follow your dreams, do what you love. This is some kind of common advice that is given, in this case, in an interview by said successful person. Okay. Now, as is the case with anything and everything, we know that there is a price, there is a cost to this. There is a cost to be paid for pursuing your passion. But before we get there, and today we're going to be talking to Dr. Thunder. He has a YouTube channel. He is a professor at Ohio State University, a jazz musician, amongst other things, and a YouTuber as well. In the comment section, I left a pinned comment with his YouTube channel. So please go ahead and subscribe to it. We'll be talking to him about the cost of pursuing your passion, because this is a person who has pursued his passion to the nth degree. And we would like to find out from him what his advice is, what he has learned along the way. You see, one thing vis-a-vis this common response about pursuing your passion that I heard from Scott Adams. Scott Adams is the creator of the Dilbert comic strip. And he says this. Okay, so we got to find out, okay, what is the opposite of pursuing your passion, or what is the other answer? Because if everybody keeps saying pursue your passion, pursue your passion, pursue your passion, how about someone who comes out and say that is BS? Okay, how about someone who comes up and say that is BS? And one of the particular arguments or constructions that I found particularly, interesting, at least, came from Scott Adams. He said this: look, you have a billionaire out there, okay? Elon Musk is being interviewed, and he is asked, what advice do you have? Or how did you make it this far? And then he says, pursue your passions. Pursue your passions. What you should ask is, what are his alternative answers? What could he say rather than say, pursue your passions? And in analyzing what the options are, it may give you an insight as to why the pursue your passions answer is not all that it's cracked out to be, and that it might be indeed some BS. Okay. Now, in my channel, in my life in general, I tend to emphasize trade-offs, as you guys already know. We're always looking at things here, and then on the other hand, not because one is bad or one is good, but not because we're trying to do this kind of mealy mouth, lukewarm, well, on the one hand and on the other hand, and everything is all good and kumbaya, middle of the road type stuff. No, but because we understand that there is no balance in life, there are only trade-offs. There is no balance in life. There are only trade-offs. There is no work-life balance. There are only choices and consequences. Okay. You choose one hand. Okay. You choose to quote unquote go for your life. Okay. You're not going to be as successful on the work side. You choose to go full bore on the work side, it's going to be trade-offs, right? Yes, it's going to be hard and stressful and so on and so forth. And there may be a divorce or two involved in your life. Okay. That's just kind of how it goes. Success leaves clues, as Dan Pena likes to say. So, point is this. Okay. The point is this. What are the alternative answers to the question, how did you become successful, or what advice do you have? What could he say? Okay, because the pursuing your passion, I would argue, is a very politically correct, democratic kind of answer. Why? Because everyone has a passion. And you can just easily tell people pursue your passion. And you're not guaranteeing them success. You're not actually guaranteeing them anything. You don't even know what their passions are. You're just telling them that because it's an answer that applies to everybody, because, or shall I say, it applies to everybody insofar as everybody has a passion. Pursue your passion. Everybody has a passion. Therefore, I'm safe. I'm free. I'm off the hook. What are the alternative answers that could be given? Okay. So Scott Adams elaborated upon this and he said, hey, Elon Musk could tell you, hey, you know what? How did I become successful? I'm smarter than you. That's how I became successful. Okay. Could he not say that? Let me get a 1 in the chat if you think that that is a valid answer for any particular person to give. If Warren Buffett were to come out and say, you know what, I am smarter than the average bear, I am more hardworking than the average bear, I am more disciplined than the average bear, that's why I'm successful. Okay. Again, what are the alternatives to the, hey, go ahead and pursue your passion answer? Okay. Shout out to the unreasonable man in the house, says, salute, brother. Good content. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, what are the alternative answers to the question, pursue you, the alternative answers that could be given when someone is asked, well, why are you successful? And what would you say is responsible for your success? They could say, you know what, I'm just, I think I'm smarter than you guys. But that's not a very democratic thing to say. That's not a very politically correct thing to say. Why am I going to put myself out there on the line like that? Okay. I'm going back to my great life, or I'm going back to this board meeting. I'm going back to this particular thing that I need to do. I don't need to bother myself with you guys. So I'm just going to tell you to pursue your passion. Everybody's got one. It's like an a-hole, right? Everyone's got one. So everyone can feel included in the club and everyone can say, yes, yes, yes. The answer is to pursue your passion. What else could they say? Another thing they could say, which is also true, is, I have no idea how I succeeded. This is more true than not in most situations. Now, either from anecdotal experience or experience in your life, or you've read the data and you've read scientific studies, so on and so forth, you know that any kind of entrepreneurial venture, any kind of venture at all, any kind of business, any kind of thing that somebody sets out to do, usually ends up going down a path which is very different from what they thought, or perhaps they didn't even think at all, or perhaps it was some kind of serendipity. They started out wanting to do X, they ended up doing Y. Okay, this is true even in scientific endeavors, scientific pursuits. We all know about the penicillin and pasteurization and many, many, many examples of this. Okay. All right. I forget what I heard a really funny statement about, science and, being an inventor. Okay. It's kind of like a good a clumsy scientist that pays attention, like a scientist that makes a lot of mistakes, but pays attention. Okay. That's usually how a lot of inventions come about. Even scientific inventions, I mean, not that someone is just tinkering and coming up. Somebody is actually trying to find out A, and they end up finding Z. They were never looking for Z. Okay. A lot of times science is done via the engineering path. In other words, the tinkering path, the mistakes, and so on and so forth. So somebody asks Elon Musk, I don't know, maybe Elon Musk is a bad example in this particular case, right? But pick your successful entrepreneur, billionaire type that someone will be asking this question of, or that will be getting this question asked. A valid answer 100% would be to say, you know what, I have no idea how it happened. But that's not a very pleasant answer. Okay. That's not a very pleasant answer. And the Goldie Jones channel says, I'd say be open to taking risks. I think that's the defining factor. 100%. 100% is say yes, right? Shoot first, ask questions later, say yes. A very important part. And in my video on the book, Your Next 5 Steps, which talks about strategy, I mentioned that the strength of the entrepreneur, creative, founder type is the intuition and just say yes, shoot first, ask questions later, be fine with the stress, be fine with the chaos, take advantage, exponential growth, so on and so forth, okay? And you're not going to know what happened, only in hindsight. So someone could be asked, how did you become successful? What advice would you give? They could say, hey, you know what? I got a 200 IQ. So if you got that, yeah, maybe you got a chance. But if you don't, I don't know, right? Elon Musk could say that, right? Rather than to pursue your passion, which is commonly given as an answer. Okay, we have not even gotten into the cost yet of pursuing your passion. We're just talking about the fact that this is an answer that is commonly given to this kind of a question about how somebody became successful or what advice they would give, and that there are other alternatives, perhaps, and the alternatives are not very palatable to a democratic spirit. All right. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. I see you there. And let me see here. We got, how do you pronounce that name? I'll just say Christoph Garbos. Although you could argue an answer like that from Buffett or Musk wouldn't have made them successful in the first place. Like that from Buffett or Musk wouldn't have made them successful in the first place. An answer like that in terms of, being smart per se, or being more hardworking, or being more. In other words, people could give you many, 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 many different answers that have to do with their own personal attributes, that have to do with some other kind of characteristic that they have, that have to do with some kind of difficulty, some kind of really, really rough path that they had to take, or the fact that they have no clue whatsoever, right? And that all these are more reasonable answers than the answer which says, hey, follow your passion. This little preamble here is just giving us the idea, okay, that this follow your passion stuff, beyond the fact that we know that not all passions make sense, not all passions could be monetized, not all passions are actually even worth pursuing, okay? And that the whole thing about, well, you'll never work a day in your life if you do what you love, that no. Even if you love what you do, it's still going to be 99% grunt work for you to get to be successful, to get to the top. If you just want to be mediocre, yes, mediocrity, no one needs to tell you how to be mediocre, okay? And no one needs to tell you how to backslide to the bottom. All you got to do is not do anything. Entropy will take care of the rest, okay? The universe will take care of the rest. Atrophy will take care of the rest. You'll slide right down to the bottom of the hill where you belong, okay? But No matter how passionate about you are about this business, this idea, this project, you are going to be grinding out day after day, doing things you don't like to do. Even the expansion process, bringing people in to help you, involves creating systems which are boring, right? Boring systems, boring lists, boring ways of organization, boring processes, so on and so forth. Boring, boring, boring. Drudgery, 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 right? So I think that follow your passions thing needs to be scrutinized to a high degree. Needs to be scrutinized to a high degree. There he is. Can you say something? I'm not sure I can
What's
hear you.
happening, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get right into this. We have Dr. Sean Thunder, Dr. Thunder in the house today, and this is not the first time you have appeared on my channel. I did an interview with you, and you were gracious enough to allow me to take clips of it and put it on my channel. And I've had several clips, at least two now, from that interview. Okay. And also, Dr. Thunder just did an interview with Solo TV 84. And that's a pretty nice interview, kind of looking at the origin story of Solo TV 84. Again, I left a link to his channel. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel, ladies and gentlemen. A link to his channel on the comment pinned at the top for this video. So if you're in the chat right now, go ahead and click that. For those coming in to watch, go ahead and click it as well. So let me allow you to introduce yourself, sir. Who is Dr. Thunder?
Well, Thunder is a nickname that my father gave me, and it's the only nickname that you'll know. he 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 has very creative nicknames, and um, some of which are not particularly flattering. But this particular one, it stuck, and it seemed like something, a way to kind of separate myself.
Hmm.
Um, as a musician, my dad was a great saxophone player. I heard him playing around the house, and so I wanted to do what he was doing. And I started begging him early and often. And as legend has it, he finally caved when I was 6 years old. And so I started playing alto saxophone when I was 6. It was the case that um, once I was able to, handle the instrument, alto saxophone is heavy for a 6-year-old. My dad designed a stand, as a wooden stand that you could set on top of a piano bench, and I could walk
Hmm.
up. I could walk up beside the piano bench, and so I could practice without the weight being on me. And as soon as my chops could handle it, um, I was practicing, you know, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day. It's all I wanted to do. Um,
Hmm.
my and that's kind of a weird thing, that it's very strange. I have a 7-year-old, and I'm getting a better idea of what a normal 7-year-old is like, and a normal 6-year-old. Just the amount of energy and just wanting to hit everything. Um, it's good abdominal exercise for me because I never know when a punch is coming. Um, I require a fewer crunches at the gym. So, uh, but it's I can't take credit for that. It definitely, I believe it's my calling. I believe it's the reason I was placed on earth. Um,
Hmm.
and if it wasn't for music, I think I would be. I think I would be totally miserable. If I mean, I'm capable of doing other things,
Hmm.
But if music wasn't that central force in my life, I think I would be totally miserable. I don't know. I can't think of something that could occupy the space that discipline has. Um,
Got it. Got it. Without music, you would be a bum, like O'Shea says, right?
right, right, straight bum status. Um, but music has facilitated every blessing in my life, every positive thing.
Hmm.
Um, even the marriage I'm in. My wife, I met her because of music. I met her because uh, of a job that I was hired to do at a church that we were both at, and I didn't know who she was or anything when I took the job. She didn't know who I was, and we met we met at the church.
Hmm.
Um, so every good thing in my life has been facilitated by a passion, a drive,
Hmm.
that music. It's uh, in my mind, music is maybe only second to God, and it's uh, just profundity. It's how vast it is, how many possibilities it offers. I tell my students, any in my students that seem like they're bored, how can you be bored in music? How is this possible? Consider all of the possibilities in music. And a lot of them that maybe come to mind right now to many of listeners, maybe they're the ones where you're playing music on stage, or
Hmm.
maybe different styles of music. But consider the fact that uh, you know running sound, being a recording engineer, um, designing musical instruments. There's a huge conference called the National Association of Music Merchants, NAM show. It happens in Anaheim each year. Of course, it got canceled because of the pandemic, but in Anaheim, it's a huge, huge conference. It's the biggest music conference of its kind in the States. There's a conference that's bigger that's in Germany, but this conference is huge. It's a huge conference. You go there, and you're walking around. Oh, there's Stevie Wonder. Oh snap! There's Tower of Power, the lead singer right there. Oh snap! There's Prince. Oh look, I see Prince is walking right here, and it's kind of like nonchalant people just doing. Oh, Herbie Hancock.
Hmm.
It's like that. But then also all of the manufacturers, instrument manufacturers,
Hmm.
electronics manufacturers. You know, you could be a rep for one of these companies. You could be a salesperson for one of these companies. You could be a product, designer for one of these companies. There's a billion ways to work in the music industry. We didn't even talk about the record industry,
Hmm.
right? We didn't even talk about artist relations. We didn't talk about, um, uh, you know, one of my buddies from school. He did a master's degree in music performance, saxophone performance, and then he went and did a law degree because he wanted to do entertainment law. So you see, there's all of these pathways in music, let alone stuff on the education side. I mean, teaching. I'm an academic. I'm a tenured professor, um, and I'm the director of jazz studies at a Big Ten, school at Ohio State University. And there's just so many possible avenues. My wife is a dancer, and one thing that I enjoy quite a bit is um, creating music and editing music
Hmm.
for her dance company. You know, so there's just like all kinds of ways that you can, you know, that you can move around in music.
Hmm. Hmm. That is very interesting. And I see a comment here that says, "Is the sound okay, ladies and gentlemen? Can everybody hear both myself and Dr. Thunder? Let me get a one in the chat if it's cool, because someone earlier said, Dr. Thunder, can you speak up?
Okay, I can turn up a little bit right here. Maybe that's a little bit better. Is that better? Is that
Well,
better?
I hear it. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you very much. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Short Copy again. Shout out to Young Swift joining us, and then Shendel Courage. Everyone in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and definitely salute to the guests. So, music is definitely a passion of yours. Now, I did not tell you what this interview was going to be about, right?
No.
And in thinking, well, I didn't know what it was going to be about either until about an hour ago, and I was like, you know what? The cost of pursuing your passions. I think that's a good thing there. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one question I have is this. You may or may not have heard my little kind of preamble here, rambling on and on about this whole pursue your passion, pursue your passion, pursue your passion thing,
Yeah,
which I
I
think it's,
absolutely did. I heard it all.
yeah, I think it's overly said and underanalyzed, I would say. So let me ask you a question. How passionate should somebody be about something? Right, in order to pursue it full time, because what you described, and you even described it yourself, like, wow, like I was not a normal 6-year-old, right? I started playing the sax, I was climbing onto this thing, I was, it's all I wanted to do. I was practicing 5 hours a day. So how passionate should somebody be about X in order to pursue X full time, in order for it to be worthwhile?
Yeah, first, I do a bi-weekly show with a buddy of mine called Thunder in TK, and we talked a little bit about passion. And so first of all, when you say passion, there's a lot of different things that I think people may think that you mean. Right? So sometimes what people think you mean is that it is infatuation,
Mhm.
butterflies in the stomach,
Mhm.
right? Uh, puppy love, right? This euphoric, experience every time you're associating with, whatever that discipline is.
Mhm.
Right. That's what they think that it means. So
Mm.
then, therefore, what happens is whenever they don't feel that, or
Mm.
after a
Mm.
period of time when that wears off, they think that something's wrong.
Mm.
And then that's a reason why they quit. You know, um,
Mm.
I think so. The Bible says that um, passion, when it talks about passion, it says that because we associate passion with the heart, right? Follow your heart. It'll never steer you astray, right? Follow your
Mm.
heart. These are synonymous ideas. Follow your passion, follow your heart. The Bible says that the heart is wicked and deceitful above all. Who can
Mm.
know it? Right? So now, when it says heart there, um, it's actually talking about the flesh. It's
Mhm.
talking about our, that temporary
The
euphoric.
butterflies in your stomach, yeah.
Right. That's what it's talking about. Uh, so so obviously that so if I'm telling people follow your passion and that's what I mean, that would be bad advice.
Mhm.
Okay. Uh, Passion, better described, would be something that you, even when you don't have the butterflies, you're lost without it. Like
Mm.
it is something uh, that you need to function, right? Like, if music was not part of my life, like, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would find things to do, but I would be pretty miserable, right? Now, that's not because every time I, start writing some music or, start to teach or, perform, that I have these, butterflies in my stomach, like, oh my goodness, this, like I'm, some kind of drug induced euphoria. It's it's not that at all. And many times, I tell my students this all the time. I don't like to practice. Now I practice all the time, right? I spend a lot of time practicing, right? And I have over the years, a lot of hours, but I don't really like to practice. I love to fart around though, right?
Gotcha.
I love to fart around. I mean, I just, I've got a lot of equipment, and I can waste hours just, oh, let me check this thing out. Let me check that thing out.
Mm.
Grab pick the horn up and just play and just
Mhm.
keep playing and keep playing. I love to do that. I could do that all day. But
Mhm.
practicing is another matter. Practicing is when you're trying to refine. You're trying to take something that you can't play and master it,
Mhm.
right? You're taking
Mhm.
something from ground zero, right? You're trying to go from zero to hero. You with a
Mhm.
particular with a particular exercise or composition or something. That's practicing. And what that requires is that there's going to be a lot of times when you're just not getting it, and you have to slow down, you have to be patient, but you have to press, because what produces real results is not this sort of lackadaisical, just letting stuff happen, oh, I'm going through the motions, you know that fake it till you make it, right? Going through the motions, that doesn't produce anything. You leave the practice room the same way you entered the practice room,
Mhm.
if that's how you do it. What actually produces results is that, it's that,
Mhm.
oh, that
Mhm.
intensity, that focus, that thing that requires energy. It's a sacrifice, right?
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
actually produces results. And I like gym analogies.
Mm.
I'm a 5 days a week uh, gym guy. I have some goals in mind. I've been working pretty hard on my bench press. I never really had a big bench press, like growing up, and even when I was in my 20s and in my 30s, because I had a lot of issues with my shoulders. But I was in the gym all the
Mm.
time, and so I was like, okay, I want to conquer this. And so I have a series of videos on my Instagram and Facebook called "On the Road to a 430-pound bench press." So my max now is 415, and I think I'm going to get 430 probably before the end of the year. And then my next goal will be 450, and then after that, I'm chasing 500. Right?
Mm.
That's what I want to do. Now I'm 46. I have a short window of time where I can do this in a way that doesn't, potentially cause, like, some damage that I'll really be paying for, like when I'm in my 70s or something, Uh-huh. And so, I have a window of time. So I spend a lot of time at the gym, and frequently, matter of fact, today I felt this way. People will tell you, you go to the gym, hey, all it is just, if you can make it to the gym, then the work is over. The most of the work is done. You just have to get there. And what I always think to myself is, those cats must not actually be doing any training. Because that's where the work is. It's the training. It's not the getting myself to the gym, because uh, I had a conversation with my wife a couple of weeks ago. We were talking in the car, and I don't know, we were about 20 minutes into a conversation, 25, and I was sitting at the gym, and the longer I was sitting in the parking lot at the gym talking to her on the phone, the more excuses started to occur to me. And so I had to tell her, if I keep talking to you, then I may not go to the gym. And so, I'll talk to you after I get done, And I was at the gym. I have gone inside the gym. I've gone in the gym. I've gotten, I always come with my work clothes on. And then I change into my, I've got my bag. I change into my, workout clothes. I have changed into my workout clothes, got the rest of my gear, walked out. I already took my pre-workout, right? Gone out to the bench, gone back into the locker room, got my work, took a shower, and left. I've done that before, right? And maybe it was because I needed to actually listen to my body, and maybe I did need to do it. But my point is, don't get distracted by, that story. My point with that story is that it is the actual training that is the work. It's not getting yourself there. Now, I know that often people feel like if they can get themselves there, then maybe there's some sort of momentum that will cause them to maybe do the workout. And maybe that is the case. But my point is that if I feel that momentum or not, if I'm going to hit my goal, I have to train. And then I can't, and then I can't train like, well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but hey, at least I'm in here. Hey, let me get a sweat going, and I guess I'm doing all right. No, that's not going to do anything. There's a reason why such a small percentage of people have ever been able to bench press as much weight as I'm going after. There's a reason for that. So anyhow, I mean, but I use a lot of gym analogies because I think there's a lot in common with most disciplines. When you're training and you're pressing and you're trying to get to that next level, I call this I need to start doing this for my students again, but I have this thing I call the discipline graph. And basically what it is it shows that on one axis, you have the skill level, and the other axis is time. Right.
Okay.
And so at the beginning of any particular thing, the more time you spend, the better you get. And it is it's a pretty direct relationship. So if you spend more time, you can get better faster. Okay. But what starts to happen, and you find this in all disciplines, is you will start to plateau. Right? So you're going like this, everything seems like it's going well, and then you'll start to plateau. Now, the way you deal with the plateau will dictate how successful you're going to be at anything that that operates with under in this principle that I'm discussing here. So what happens is, as you're plateauing, you're still intense. You're not allowing frustration to sort of take over. You're not. I mean, I know musicians that have been so overcome by frustration that they've damaged their instrument. You just slam it down. I just can't deal with this. So you don't allow that frustration to take you over, but you're in it, right? You're still very intense, right? And then what will happen is you'll achieve an exponential growth. So it's like, say I was struggling to play something at 120 beats per minute, and I was struggling. I couldn't quite get at 120. And then tomorrow I can play it at 135.
Yeah.
It's just what happens. This is just what happens. You see the same thing. I experience the same thing when I'm at the gym all the time. Man, I'm pressing against this thing and I can't quite get it. I can't quite get. Then all of a sudden I can just do more weight.
Hmm.
You know, but you don't get that unless you've been doing that leaning in, that intense, that grinding. The stuff that
Hmm.
nobody wants to do.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. So you've said a lot there. Okay, so let me pick up on a couple of things. The question was, how passionate, okay, should somebody be in order to pursue something full time? And then first of all, you went ahead to kind of dispel a certain notion about what some people tend to think passion is. Okay, it is not the flesh. It is not the temporary, effervescent butterfly in the stomach feeling, right? Hence, if you're not feeling that anymore, don't think you're no longer passionate. Someone asked something about, also do what you're good at in the chat. It's like, well, what you're saying is something for which, if it did not exist or if you were not doing it, you would be lost. You would be a bum. You could not. So that is the question, ladies and gentlemen, for you to answer. It's not a question of whether you're good at it or not, or so on and so forth, whether it gives you the tingles. It is something that if you were not doing that, okay, you would be a bum. And I have a question about that, about whether you think everybody has that one thing, okay? But then there's the in line with that, you're not always going to feel it, is the question of, well, you need, in order to be good at anything, you need to put in that work. It's going to be 99% perspiration, as the popular saying goes. And I was saying that also in my introduction, that even if you're quote unquote passionate about something, doing whatever it is you love, it is still a lot of work. For me today, for example, tomorrow I have some sales pitch to give. Okay. Now, it is kind of funny that you mentioned the messing around versus the practice. Now, I know that practice is a principle, right? That I know I have to. It's a question of principle, right? It has to be done. And I made this video called, you're not as good, you're not doing as well as you feel you are. So you always need to be pushing yourself, sharpen, 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 right? So today, right? The messing around part could be me just kind of musing with myself as to, what exactly their needs are, what I'm going to say and how I'm going to do it, and so on and so forth. Features and benefits type conversations, and how I'm going to really dissect down the customer's process. What exactly, why would they switch? What could make them switch? And how I'm going to ask those questions. That is still not practice yet. That is similar to you just picking up those instruments and messing. That's just me messing around. And I know that. Okay. I still haven't practiced yet. I'm going to practice later on tonight. Practice is and it doesn't feel good. Like, I don't like to do it. Okay.
No,
I
no.
don't like to actually like sit and then actually rehearse it. I have to say it to myself. I record it in my phone. I listen back to it, go through that whole process, because otherwise I'm not doing things at the highest level. Okay. So let me ask that question now. Since you mentioned this, and given your history that you gave us as a child being passionate about music, and then you described something that what you describe passion to be, which is something that if you're not doing it, you would be miserable. Do you think everybody has that thing, or some semblance of that thing, or some kind of approximation of it, or no?
Yeah, it's one thing that I've had to do is I've had to recognize the fact that not everybody is chosen in the way that I was. What I mean by that is music definitely chose me,
Hmm.
and I really didn't have any say or control of that. Um, it so yeah, I mean it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a matter of a choice. It was something I always knew that I was going to do.
So you wouldn't, would it be fair to say you wouldn't know if other people have it or not, because it's not something that you stumbled upon, or
Right.
so it's almost like an innate thing where it's like, I don't know if other people have it because it chose me. I didn't choose it. If they have it, they would know. It's not a question of me telling them that they have it or not.
Well, I'd say yes and no. I mean,
Mm,
the yes part that I would say is I don't have the same experience that other folks have, right? And all of us can say that at some level, right? Um, and like I was saying, when I see my son, he certainly is not at the place where is going to know what that thing is, right? So maybe what it is that I'm saying is that perhaps it's possible for everyone to achieve that, but that it may happen at different points in people's lives.
mm,
It it may be that it takes longer, and so I am uh, tomorrow. I will be interviewing my 100th guest on my show.
mm,
Um, Conversations with Dr. Thunder. Now, most of the people that I've interviewed have been musicians, but I've also interviewed dancers and actors. Uh, you said that I before that I interviewed Solomon Jones, the Solo TV '84. I interviewed you, some philanthropists, and different people. And one thing that I've noticed is that folks get to that point at different times. Some folks it's earlier. Some folks it takes a process of elimination that occurs later in their life, and then they discover that thing.
mm,
And then once they have that thing again, they would describe it the same way that I'm describing it, as something that you would be lost without.
mm,
But sometimes it takes more searching to find what that thing is.
mm,
Um, and sometimes that thing may not be sometimes that thing could be a particular skill set as opposed to a
mm,
particular discipline, you know? So
mm,
like a skill set that would be useful in several different kinds of disciplines,
mm. Okay.
you know? So yeah, I
Interesting.
mean, so,
That,
but
that,
when I talk to my students about, okay, so how much are you practicing and how much are you doing X, Y, and Z? And I remember when I was, I don't know, 14, 13 or something, and I had a couple students, and I remember having a student in particular, and I felt like I was like personally offended by the student because they weren't practicing. And
mm,
it was like, why are you not practicing? I felt like they were disrespecting the music. You know, like like what are you doing? I mean,
mm,
isn't this is like life or death? Like why
mm,
aren't you as enthralled with this? And I couldn't understand, and it took me a long time to figure that out. That people aren't necessarily as serious about things as everybody else is, or vice versa, So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is because when you've mentioned this now twice in terms of you you get the tingles with the music, or not in a superficial way. At least you're like you are passionate about it, and you often don't. It reminds me of something like chemistry. No, you were talking about all the various aspects of music, and it's like a whole kaleidoscope. There's this, and then there's that. It's so rich, and so on and so forth. Reminds me of one of my chemistry teachers in high school, and she was very passionate about chemistry, and not many people are passionate about chemistry. And she would say these things and go on, and I'm just thinking like, like we don't we're not we're not there with you. We're not there with you. But that is rather interesting. Okay, you how about sacrifices, because you mentioned that this practice, for example, is a sacrifice. Now, in the broader context of your life, let's say, vis-a-vis the pursuit of this particular passion, have you kept track of, or have you noticed, or could you say something about the sacrifices that you've had to make? And also, um, let's say the financial ramifications of having a passion, something that you could speak, from your perspective or just in general. So sacrifices, financial ramification, things of that sort.
Well, the financial ramifications of being an artist. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, it is. It's a struggle, and especially right now, what's happening to musicians, what's happening to anyone that's in this sort of service field and service fields. I mean, it's. I mean, it's been brutal. It's been brutal. People. You know, most of the folks that I've interviewed, they were poised for a record year in 2020. And then
Mhm.
it's just like the rug just gets snapped out from under you. And it's like, okay, you've been spending all of this time, all of these hours, because, you know, playing a gig, being able to play the gig, what what comes before that is all of these hours and hours and hours of preparation, all these hours of practicing, right? And so you've been doing all of this, putting all this time in, and now there's everything has dried up. So it's it's really uh, it's really too bad.
Mm.
As far as a sacrifice, I consider, so I'm a Christian, and you have those kinds of uh, what is it, fair weather Christians, or the ones that are holy on Sunday and then doing other stuff for the rest of the week. Um, what I try to do, and I'm not perfect at this, what I try to do is I try to treat everything that I do as an act of worship.
Mm.
So when I'm at the
Mm.
gym, that's an act of worship. When
Mhm.
I'm in the practice room, that's an act of worship. When I'm producing content, that's an act of worship. Certainly when I'm in church, that's an act of worship. When I'm at my job, it's an act of worship. There's what was it? I think it's Francis of Assisi that said that preach the gospel, uh, or at all times preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. Right. So I try to let my life say something about what I believe, and hopefully people can they can see that. And it's not intended to be preachy, and I hope that doesn't sound preachy. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
me, all of this stuff is an act of worship, and there's a sacrifice associated with that.
Mm.
There's a
I see.
sacrifice.
I see. That is a good context within which to kind of place it, right? So it's not just the music and or your passion, it's everything. So your music is just kind of another one of these things. Granted, as you say it, you would be miserable if you were not doing it anyways.
Yeah.
So that is rather important. Now, when you mentioned the thing about the skill set, then that's something that I found particularly interesting because for me, right, if we were to look at it practically, and this is looking in hindsight, right, I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to go into the sciences, right? And I have certain, because there are many pathways for making money there, many kinds of specialties, so on and so forth. However, I do know that there are other things that I don't want to say passionate about because I don't really know yet that I can hold on to that mantle, uh, but there are other things that I know that I need to do, right? I like to do these things, right? And and they're mainly on the artistic side of things, right? So whether it be writing, oratory, even philosophy, I consider to be an art in a certain sense,
Yeah.
right? And then there's the music thing. I got that kind of music thing going. I love music. Everybody loves music, though, right? But I I like to perform it. I like to write it, and so on and so forth. But I I was able to kind of balance it in a certain way whereby, and I think when you mentioned the skill set thing, it kind of made sense too, that okay, because I never quite, because I don't really think that you can just be passionate about all these things altogether, right? I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that there's just and I don't know if there's, I don't know what the unifying thing is, okay? And I'm not, and as I say this, it's starting to sound like I'm making this all about me, and I don't like doing that. But as you were talking, I started thinking about this, and I don't know what the unifying thing is that will be like, oh, this is kind of like the skill set within you. But I can tell you that for sure, I am I really love to do engineering, and I really love to do music, and I really love the whole performance thing, and I really love the whole philosophy, study, whatever writing thing. And for me, it doesn't seem like I'm juggling so much,
Yeah.
you know, and that whirlwind that I just described, if I'm not doing it, I would be lost, in other words. So it's kind of like, well, what am I passionate about, right? But then you said it doesn't necessarily have to be a, a particular discipline. It could be a set of skills or a life, right? It could be, because for me, it's that life, the life of doing all these things, and also integrating them. Because with
Yep.
my engineering stuff, like let's say, I bring in the performative aspects. Otherwise, I would not be good at the selling, at the entrepreneurship, so on and so forth, right? And all these things kind of interplay together, and they all kind of work well, and being able to communicate well, and not talk like an engineer all the time. So all that stuff is rather interesting. And then again, to go back, I like how you kind of talked about the whole sacrifice thing, where all of life is worship, and sacrifice is implied in that. So you're not necessarily looking at, okay, you're sacrificing for music per se. I think that's a good way to put things, right? Now, what current projects are you working on? Because you say, you do you write lyrics at all, or do you just write music?
Uh, yes. So you know, I'm the minister of music at a church. And so I work with singers frequently. The last couple churches that I've worked at, I've had pretty extensive writing components and arranging, producing
Mm,
components associated with those jobs. Um, and uh, you know, I started composing music, when I was 6. So playing music and composing music were things that accompanied each other. And then um, reading music and then also playing by ear and then
mm,
playing on both sides of the horn, so to speak, classical and also jazz. And that put me in a situation where the skill set that I developed makes me capable of functioning in virtually every musical space. Um, my doctorate, for instance, is uh, it's a saxophone performance.
mhm,
It is, it's a classical degree. And so I recently in January, so before the pandemic, I released a classical project. It's all saxophone and piano, and it is all the commission. It's commissioned works of Marcel Mule. Marcel Mule's a important figure in saxophone. So there's that. As far as compositional projects that
People
include
can find that. Where can people
on
find
my
that?
YouTube, you can find it on my YouTube. I
Okay.
actually released it on SoundCloud also.
Okay.
Dr. Thunder Music for both of those.
Okay.
And but I also did this thing, this project where I I wrote a setting of an Orthodox liturgy in a Black gospel setting. And so that was 8 singers, SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, or bass. And it also had an organ, B3 organ, and a percussionist. And it was a big event that we did. It was in February. It was February 1st. Seems like a lifetime ago because of everything that's happened since then. It was the first day of Black History Month. And it was at the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Cathedral in Columbus. So we did this event. That can be found on howsweetthesound.net.
Okay.
All one word, howsweetthesound.net. Yes, it's a play on the lyrics to Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. So yeah, I mean, so you can see some of that there. I've also written a lot of songs, and I'm the same as everybody, and prior to sort of waking up to the red pill, taking that red pill, and lots of writing.
You were writing poems for the ladies.
That's right. All of that stuff. I've done all that stuff, and it's not that I think that stuff is bad. I think it's good. I think the problem is that I think we have this idea that that we can woo ladies that aren't even really into us, like Cyrano de Bergerac or something, right? Just from sheer eloquence, and because men are really romantic. We're the true romantics.
Yeah.
And that's what Rollo Tomasi says.
100%.
But the thing is that if you find a good woman, which I have, if you find a good woman, then certainly that woman is worthy of that. I think
cast your pearl before swine. So
you have that, and also we always talk about how women have to kiss a lot of frogs, to find the prince, but these days men got to kiss a lot of frogs too. So I'm just saying.
100%. What kind of music? Okay, other than so you described various settings. The classical. You mentioned the gospel arrangement that you had. Then you talked a little bit about some kind of things that have to do with the content, blue pill, if you will, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So
now,
go ahead.
If you could describe in a more abstract sense, which you're a music professor, tenor music professor, I'm sure you could. What kind of what the aesthetics of the particular aspect of music, or the kind of music that moves you, or you can even broaden it to just aesthetics in general and art in general. Like what kind do you write, and what kind do you like? Are they one and the same? If you can describe them broadly speaking, right? What is it?
It's interesting because when I was younger, teenager, and first few years of college, I was really a purist. I was like a young Wynton Marsalis or something, where there's really like a very narrow view of this is the real music, this is the stuff that's really worthy. All of that pop junk like
Mm,
this, that kind of thing. And I tended to be that way.
mm,
But as I matured and as I started to recognize the intricacy, the nuance associated with, um, heck, even putting on a successful pop concert, all of the production associated, all of the, the
mhm,
dancing and so the
mhm,
choreography,
mhm,
the artwork, uh, the the automation, the
mhm,
lighting, the
mhm,
using programs like Ableton Live to to sync uh, on a grid things like you know uh, lighting that can like
mhm,
Mickey Mouse lighting. You understand what I mean? The
mhm, mhm,
term Mickey Mousing refers to if you watch a cartoon and the music accompanies every movement of the character, and that is not seen. That's not esteemed good film scoring. So, like, if I'm in a dramatic film, you don't want the music to be Mickey Mousing, you know. Um, but syncing all this stuff together and doing it on a grid allows you to be able to have the kind of uh, nuanced control to be able to Mickey Mouse every single movement in
Mm,
perfect timing every time, But all of that kind of stuff, it just all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff the wrong way. And
mm,
so I've learned how to appreciate a wide range of artistic expression because I'm able to look in, sort of look under the hood and see,
mm,
what's actually happening here and how much effort is involved in producing something at a particular level. And
mm,
so I like different things for different reasons, and different kinds of music for different reasons. There, you asked me a younger version of me, I didn't like country music very much.
mm,
But the older me, I I actually enjoy a lot of country music, and
mm,
one of the reasons I enjoy it is because the lyrical content is much more diverse than like R&B music or so you get to hear about a lot of different topics,
mhm.
so it's just interesting. um so
Don't get me started with R&B music. It's rather ridiculous. Yeah, but yeah, that's
Baby, take your clothes off. That's one of the things.
track 2, baby, take your clothes off. Track 3, baby, take your clothes off. Track 4, ah, Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Anyways, so your lyrics now that you write,
Yeah.
okay? Um, is there, well, let me ask something more direct then. Do you write lyrics that are more general or are they specific? Do they paint a general scene of chaos, for example? Or you talking about a particular day when it was chaotic because the car tire went flat? You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So I certainly have written things that were inspired by a singular event.
Hmm, okay.
Um, uh, this is probably going to be one of my blue pill testimonials at one point. What I'm about to tell you, but I remember. Um, how could I forget? When I was in my 20s, and uh, someone that I was dating, uh, they gave me a key to their apartment,
Hmm,
and so I was blowing her phone up. Like she wasn't responding, and so I just went to her apartment and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I called her mom. I was so I
hmm,
so I'm in her apartment, and there's a clock on the wall, and the time just keeps going and going and going. And then she finally appears. It's like 8 a.m. or something. So she was out all night and I couldn't find her. And turns out that, so first thing she does is she goes straight to the, straight to the, to take a shower, and that's a certain kind of signal.
Okay.
And so I wrote a song about that, the lyrics, and they spell all of that out, the sort
I
of
see.
anguish, that somebody would go through, that's sitting there waiting for someone, to show up. You don't know if the person's, died or something. And then the huge humiliation and smack in the face when you discover the reason why why they weren't where they were supposed to be.
Wow, that is something. Yeah, that is worth writing a song about, spelling it out in
Yeah.
in all
So,
the
so I've
horrific
written,
detail.
so I've written things about, heartbreak and all of that kind of stuff, but in poetry about that. But then I've also written music about, like, for instance, the setting, that Black gospel setting of an Orthodox Vespers that I did. There's specific lyrics that I had to set, and they're like
Okay.
scripture passages and, uh, portions of the litany and stuff like that. So that stuff was already sort of determined beforehand. But I wrote a tune called, this is years ago. I wrote a tune called "The Final Kiss Goodbye." So I mean, I'm a I'm a simp. So simp at heart.
Father, forgive me for I have simped, right? For all have simped and fallen short of the glory.
That's right.
Amen. Amen. Now, you mentioned something. You're a tenured professor, okay? This is another thing where it is rather difficult to. I mean, I kind of because of all this showboating I like to do. Teaching is kind of one of the. It's kind of right there. So I went and I got the master's degree because at least I could try to teach in the community college. Some engineering type courses with a master's degree. I haven't pursued that yet, but generally speaking, okay. And if I did, it's I definitely not going to be pursuing it for the money because I know it's rough out there and it's really competitive and really cutthroat, which is getting to my point. This is not something that for which there's a high chance of success, right? So you went the music route and the teaching route, and yeah. I mean, you seem to have done pretty well for yourself insofar as being a tenured professor and so on and so forth at Ohio State, so on and so forth. Was teaching something you always wanted to do? Was this another passion of yours? How did you end up here picking these two rather tough paths? Are you just a glutton for punishment or something?
Yes. No. Well, so the teaching thing is interesting because remember the story I told you about when I was young, and I had, a couple students that they rather soundly and resolutely confirmed that I was not to be a teacher. I was telling people I hate teaching. Teaching is not for me. Don't ask me any questions because I'm not going to try to show you nothing. That's what was my disposition until I got to college, and I was leading a Bible study. Of course, that's teaching, right? I was leading a Bible study, and we were studying a particular module about basically learning what your gifts are. Like, so see how did that go? So it was like the difference between your ministry and what your gifting was, or whatever, right? So you could be gifted as a servant, so you just like to serve people, right? And so that would make you, there's several career paths that somebody that has that as their center, the reason that they're the core of their motivation for doing things. If the core of your motivation was to say teach, you don't have to be a teacher per se. You could be an engineer, or you could be a, you would just find yourself in situations where you would be always gathering all of this nuanced information and hoping for these opportunities to share that information with others. And
like on YouTube, for example.
right. And so, but I just was so convinced that I was not a teacher and I didn't want to be a teacher. And it took my buddy, TK of Thunder and TK, the show that I was talking about before. It took him telling me, he said, "Look, man, I know you keep saying that you're not a teacher. Dude, you're a teacher. That's exactly what you are. Look at what you're motivated by. Look at the kind of information that you gather. Look at the reason why you want to share that stuff with other people. You're trying to improve their process. You want them to be able to, not make mistakes that you've made, to do it a better way, and all this kind of stuff. It's because you're a teacher. Just admit that you're a teacher and go about your business." And at first I tried to fight against it. And then I was like, you know what? That is true, because even if I wasn't a musician, I would still be teaching something. That's just that's just who I am. I am a teacher. So the teaching thing, I don't see as a cop out. That saying, "Those that can't do teach." I think that's the worst. That's the worst. That is terrible. Because if you can't do, I don't want you spreading your poison. What are you gonna teach me in intricate details about how to suck? So you better be able to do. In my experience, the greatest teachers have also been virtuoso players. So, and also, there's a part of this about modeling. You want to be able to model what it is that you're telling the student to be able to do. It's like, well, why should I spend all this time practicing these exercises or these scales and arpeggios or whatever? But then it's like, when they hear you play, it's like, oh yeah, that's why. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
it's like, right. It's a constant reminder. So I see those things as being intertwined. And in the music industry, and I got this piece of information from Walt Weiskopf. I got a lesson with him. Walt Weiskopf, he's a saxophone player in Steely Dan. Great players, played with everybody. Virtuoso player, taught at Eastman for years. And I got a lesson with him when I was working on my undergraduate degree. And two things that stuck from my time with him, and I only got one lesson with him. One of them was, he said, never perform in the practice room. Never perform in the practice room. I'll unpack that in a minute. And the second thing that he said was, for a career in music, you need to do some writing, some teaching, and some performing. Now, the percentages of those things may be different depending on, where you find yourself, who you are, what you're strongest at. But you need to be so strong at those three things that somebody encountering you will have no idea. Will have no idea which one is the one that you're strongest at. And I've carried on that idea also in the number of instruments that I play. And
I see you on Instagram.
yeah, so and by the way, I just completed 366 days straight of posting something that I call hot licks every day. They're improvised, they're spontaneous, and they're played on different instruments. And now those have been compiled together in a book. Which I'm selling on my website. It's an ebook. It's going to be something like 800 pages. Each one of them are written out in all keys, and it's in treble and bass clef, and they can be played on any instrument. And I just created a compilation video that's on my YouTube channel that it's 1 through 366 with timestamps for each one of them. So people that want to up their game, they want to that want to level up. It tickles me to use some of the terminology that, in the RP community.
You use that out there in the wild world. You have your own little private jokes by yourself.
That's right. But anyhow, so that's available. You can get that on it. There's a pre-order. You can pre-order for a little bit less than than the early rate, which will end at January 1st, where the book will go up in price. So anyhow, but with the multi-instrumentalist thing, the idea here is I don't want people to be able to say, that's the one that he's not very good at. Oh no, see, you can tell he's really a saxophone player. That defeats the point, because if I have a gig and I'm holding whatever instrument that I'm holding, I can't run up to every audience member and say, this is really not my primary instrument. Really, I'm a saxophone player. Really,
You should come see me next week across the street where I'll really show you
I'll really show you what I can. And the same thing, I wouldn't want people to be like, this guy is like a terrible teacher, and I'm really more of a player. That's my thing. I'm more of a performer. I'm just collecting a check on this job. But
before I ask you to elaborate on the never perform in the practice room, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that thing about going to an audience member and saying something like, I didn't have to do anything, but I did that once, and that has stuck with me. It's a place called the Basement Tavern in Santa Monica. This is years ago, right? We my band had a regular gig there every Sunday, and decent place. And this day, reminds me of a conversation I watched on your channel earlier today with the singer, right? And you were saying, oh, well, if something's going on with your sax, you could just replace. Yes. But if something's going on with your body as a singer, there really isn't anything you can do. So I was sitting and talking to this audience member before the gig, and we were like, yeah, I'm the singer, yeah, blah blah blah. Turns out I was dehydrated that day. Okay, and for me in particular, dehydration is first of all, dehydration is not good for singing, but for me, it's not good for anything at all. It's not good for my thinking. It's not good for, and I'm not just there singing. I gotta like sing and dance and do the whole. It's very physical what I'm doing over there, right? So, needless to say, I had the worst performance of my life ever. It was humiliating. Okay, and stupid me to add insult to injury. I literally went. I felt like I had to go back to this guy and tell him like Look,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right. My apologies. I completely fucked up. I'm doing whatever I said, and it just, no matter what I said, it just made it worse because and that it's kind of funny. That's just that one day of all these days of doing gigs and all these other things, but. And for now, for sure, I'd never let that happen again, ever, 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 ever again. Okay,
What's
now,
interesting, what's interesting about that too is since the audience doesn't actually know what your intention was in your performing, likely what happened was those that even recognized that something wasn't ideal, they were only reminded and nuanced on what was wrong. And so now they probably can speak more intelligently about, how you told them something was wrong, right? Whereas before, they may or may not have been, as aware of it.
mhm,
It's like because in our head we know what we want, that what we're trying to do, and
mhm,
so any missing of that,
mhm,
you're so aware of that, that it amplifies the impact. You're talking about dehydration, and this is water, right? And
mhm,
you probably noticed in any of the interviews that you've seen me do that I'm constantly sipping on water,
mhm,
and I do that because for me too, dehydration is horrible. It's about the worst thing that can happen to me. And uh, I'm anything that I care about, I have some anxiety associated with doing it.
mm,
If I care about it to the extent that I care, I will have more anxiety. Okay. And that's a pretty common, normal thing. And as long as I've been performing, for as many people as I've performed for, and as many people as I've interviewed, or as many situations where I've been talking, on stage in front of, hundreds of people or something, doing presentations or teaching a class, as often as I've done that, I still get nervous every time. I'm
mm,
still nervous every time. Now, when I say nervous, I'm not talking about stage fright.
mhm,
I'm just talking about my adrenaline is pumping. And
mhm,
I'll tell you a story. So when I went back to do my doctorate, what was that? 2015, 2014, 2015 or something. And I hadn't been in school for 14 years.
mm,
I finished my master's in 2001. So I
mhm,
hadn't been in school for a lot of years. And the degree program that I was doing was a classical saxophone degree program. But, all of my career has been basically jazz in commercial.
mm,
And of course, my undergrad and my master's, I spent a lot of time playing classical and growing up. That was always part of my development. But you go where your career leads you, and you play the kind of music that, it's sort of organic. You just kind of go in the direction that opens up for you. And frankly, there's not a lot of classical saxophone jobs. I mean, there's university jobs, but I'm talking about gigs. There's not
mhm,
a lot of classical saxophone gigs, and so
mm,
that was not something that I pursued uh, with particular intensity, right? So I hadn't been playing any classical saxophone. Of course, I worked up some pieces. I did what I needed to do, and I had to do all the same stuff everybody else had to do. I had to audition and everything else, and so I'm in the degree program, and it comes around time for me to do my first recital. Now, mind you, I've not presented a classical recital in since 2001. Okay, it's like 2016 or something, 2015, right? So 14 years, 15 years. Um, do you think I was nervous? Of course I was nervous. What kind of fool wouldn't be nervous? What's wrong with you? you, you better care about this. You're like, what
Mm-hmm.
the heck? And but I also had learned over the years that if I allow myself to be dehydrated, it will make that experience way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I get to the point where if I'm dehydrated enough, I get this thing where I can't control my facial muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I play and have over the years, I don't have an issue with fatigue from playing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm dehydrated, I can't hardly even play a note. And so I knew I didn't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I drank, like 2 32-ounce bottles of Powerade. I drank, two more bottled waters, 3 bottled waters or something. And this is within the, last 3 hours coming up to the recital, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had like bottled waters that I drank, on the recital. I play a piece
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm, drinking, and then I play the next piece. Okay, now it's intermission. I'm drinking a whole bottle during the intermission. I was not going to get dehydrated because that just everything. You can't think straight. You can't. You're
Mm-hmm.
stuff, cotton mouth. All of that stuff. Just don't do.
Everything you described happened to me that day. Like, and it was that day I kind of really realized, the facial muscles involved with enunciating and singing properly. I learned a lot that day. Okay. And I've always been someone, that's kind of been like, okay, pay attention to your hydration, pay attention, because that's just how I've always been. But for some reason this day, I didn't pay too much attention. And it was in the summer. There was some white wine earlier on that day and certain other things. I think I had an old fashioned with the sugar, bad idea, right? That kind of thing. So now, a whole when I wake up and I'm going to have a gig that night, wake up that day, my hydration plan has already begun. Okay, it's like I'm gonna not do certain things, not eat certain things, and constantly just drink and drink water, and then start with the hot water, do the lemon stuff, do the voice exercise. Like, uh, that's not gonna be that's never,
Yeah, yeah.
because that memory still stays with me till today. So you know what? You've been quite generous with your time, and this I'm not even gonna try to summarize, but just to reference back to the topic here, okay? For everyone watching, again, this is Dr. Thunder, and you should go to his YouTube channel, and you will find information there about his website. You can find the Hot Licks 366 days. It's a video there where he's going through these different instruments and so on and so forth. Follow him on Instagram. Uh, he did an interview recently, as I mentioned before, with Solo TV 84, a very nice interview, and it's also Solo TV is putting clips of that on his channel as well. So today we talked about following your passion. What's the cost of following your passion? And I thought that this would be a good, or shall I say, the interview with Dr. Thunder would be a good either background or petri dish or whatever to kind of study this whole idea of following your passion, because it's something that I hear a lot, and especially in the, shall we say, self-help or level up or whatever kind of space.
Mm.
It used to be in books, now it's on YouTube and so on and so forth. People are constantly talking about this passion thing, and I think that a lot of people get led astray. And for me, I kind of said my own kind of way, where it's like I I want to. I feel like if I can, I was lucky in the sense that I have several things that I really enjoy doing. I could pick one to be like, okay, over here is where the rest is going to get funded from, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Now, the music, the goal is, okay, you make all the other things self-sustaining. Okay, the YouTube channel, try to make it self-sustaining, try to make music self-sustaining, but my passion for engineering, entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff, that's where things are going to get funded from, right? So that's kind of my particular solution. And I know that someone like you who is very passionate about music and has pursued it to, to the highest level, you've mastered all those instruments that you play. I can't tell which one you're, is your main thing. I only because you tell me that, I've watched your channel and you talk about the sax and stuff. But when I see you playing everything, it's so all in all, thank you very much for your time. Thank you everyone for showing up. Okay, thank you everyone for showing up. Make sure you go to the comment pinned to the top. Okay, the comment pin there and follow Dr. Thunder. And it's been an honor and a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, let's go ahead and play our theme music, Battle Within, Soul Rising. The album is coming out soon, next year, as a matter of fact. And salute.
On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.